Is Grid 2019 any good on a wheel? Well, to find out, unsurprisingly, I've plugged in my wheel and I've launched the game. And I'm just going to do a couple of races on it and just let you know how it feels really. And I should say as well, I did promise this video after I did my grid review video, which I did almost exclusively on a pad. So I'm reasonably well rehearsed on a pad. I know more or less what this game feels like. I've done barely any on a wheel up until now. So see me then jumping straight into cockpit cam, so you can see my wheel, you can see my inputs, you can see what's going on. And already going absolutely wild with the wheel, just left and right all over the place. And yeah, I mean, straight away I will say that there wasn't much feel actually on the wheel. It might be my personal steering wheel. I use a Logitech Driving Force GT, which isn't known for having very good force feedback at all. Maybe it was that, maybe it was me. I don't know, but there just wasn't much feel. It was all very light, and it was actually quite understeery, which surprised me. You'd think this sort of game would be very much sort of chuck it around type game, and it kind of was. You see they're correcting huge amounts of oversteer, like ridiculous amounts of oversteer, which you shouldn't normally be able to catch. So it is quite forgiving when you get oversteer, but understeer I found quite unforgiving, and it was just understeer wide. Quite a strange one, but reasonably fun to drive on the wheel. But I would say that if you've got a wheel, probably don't use it for this game. Use pad for this game. I think I don't know, it does add something, because you know you can be a lot more sensitive with the wheel. You can brake a lot later, not brake a lot later, rather you can be a lot more accurate with your steering inputs. You can correct oversteer a lot more freely. Of course, it feels more lifelike as well. You're actually controlling a wheel, and that's what you got in game. But I just feel like this game hasn't really been designed with a wheel in mind. I mean, they've obviously put it in there, so there was some sort of thought, but I think it's primarily a pad game. You know, it's a casual game. It is a pad game. That's what it's designed for. So I'd say play it on a pad, really. As I mentioned in my previous video, my review video, make sure if you're playing on a pad, you turn the sensitivity right up. Otherwise, the pad is virtually unplayable as well. So I'm hoping they do correct that in a patch, but at the time of making this video, there was no patch that corrected the pad settings. So hopefully you can see me getting huge amounts of oversteer. This is my very first race on the wheel, so I am just trying to adjust to it and just kind of chuck it around a little bit. You can see me there just going hugely deep. Again, just that amount of understeer there. You think this sort of game, you'd fly into a corner, you'd maybe get a kick of oversteer, and you could force understeer, and that would cause your car to turn more, and it would just be a lot more forgiving for understeer. But it really wasn't. It just, as soon as you understeered, you were just running wide hugely, and that surprised me. That surprised me quite a lot. I think that's probably one of the bigger aspects of it, potentially not being great on a wheel, and the other one just being the feel. Really, just don't get a huge amount of feel. And to be honest, those two things are probably combined. It's a very, you know, I'm going to use the word arcade. I don't normally use that term, but it's quite an arcadey game, arcadey handling. So it's not a huge surprise that it's not a huge amount of feel on a wheel. But there it is then. So that's P2 in that race. We now jump in straight into the Formula 1 car. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. We'll take that straight away just before we jump into this race. That is a good time to press that subscribe button before we get started. But we are now underway then. And of course, this is the car that I've had the most practice in. Or not this car, and a Formula 1 car in general. You see they're chucking it into first turn and getting that huge amounts of understeer once again, and getting a ridiculous snap of oversteer on the exit, which I wasn't able to correct in time. And that surprised me as well, very much so. Just because I went from having huge amounts of understeer, so thinking, okay, this car hasn't got much grip, it's going to be quite a stable car. And then I tried to get on the power on the exit and ended up just immediately spinning to the extent that it's pretty much uncatchable. You see me braking a little bit early this time, trying to be a bit more cautious on the throttle, and the exact same thing happens again. And just trying to recover it now, but having multiple crashes. So we'll try that one again, and this will be the full race this time. So I guess similar issues to the previous race in that we get quite a lot of oversteer, but because it's a Formula 1 car and because we're going that much faster, you've just got no time to catch those huge understeer moments. You see there as well, the front right wheel just lifting off the ground, the whole car just tilting, not really taking that car well at all. And that is a bit of a feature of this race as well. I think it might happen here. No, not quite here. It will happen though again a couple of times. Is it here it happens? Yes, it is. You can see they're getting up on two wheels, which actually ends up spinning our car. And I don't think this game's been optimized well for the Formula 1 car, to be fair. I mean, obviously, that's not great. It should be optimized for the Formula 1 car. It's in the game. But, you know, it isn't a game that's designed for Formula 1 cars. It's not designed for open wheels. You see again there, just getting on two wheels, and it just stops the car turning. It's not designed for open wheel cars, even though they're in the game. It's really designed for GT cars and for muscle cars and all that sort of thing. So we will give that part of it a pinch of salt, that the handling model isn't quite well adapted to this car. But we're really just trying to get a feel for it on the wheel in this particular video. As I said, I have obviously played an awful lot of the Formula 1 game by Codemasters. That is what I mostly play on my channel. And coming up the hill like this, I've got to admit, this felt very weird. Getting air in a Formula 1 car and just landing was very, very odd. But you see, we're just trying to be a little bit more cautious now. And just try not to get the excessive amount of oversteer that I was getting previously. I just paused there because thought I was going to go straight into that barrier then. Very, very deep indeed. And one thing I found odd as well is the AI team to... there's a huge crash. And we absolutely... probably genuinely killed that driver. That was... Jesus. That is not nice to see, in all honesty, even though it's a game. That was absolutely savage. I just absolutely flew probably into his cockpit. So that would be use of the halo if this was in this car. And you see we hit the barrier again and get another flashback. Because we didn't want any damage to our car. I wanted to complete this video with very minimal damage to our car, otherwise that would be unfair. And again there, you saw just not enough downforce, weirdly. I keep going off subject off the fact that we're on a wheel, but weirdly this car doesn't have much downforce. I only really noticed that on the wheel. Just trying to turn in. Again, maybe it's the fact it's got understeer again. We're just trying to turn in and not a lot happened. So, very odd. And I guess the things that make this a reasonably good pad game, for the most part, is that it understeers, so you don't, pad is very good at understeer because you get the perfect steering angle and you don't really get understeer, and you don't want it to be oversteering too much around the corners, otherwise you're just going to end up spinning out all the time. So you want to understeer in a pad really a little bit, and you want the oversteer to be very forgiving, as you can see there. Again, it just immediately snaps on me. Yeah, you want the oversteer to be a bit more forgiving because obviously you're on a pad and it's not very easy to correct oversteer. So I guess the things that make it a good pad game are the things that make it a bad wheel game. I mean, I'm going to come out straight out and say it. It isn't a great wheel game. I think I probably will play this game again. It's not a regular player for me unless they make quite a few changes. But if I do play it, it will be on a pad. I don't think I'll be doing it on a wheel. It just doesn't quite work. It's just, if you've got a wheel, you want to play something that is not necessarily realistic. I'm not expecting everyone who's got a wheel to be playing Sims. But I mean simulators, not The Sims. But you do also want it to have a reasonably good feel and just to react consistently in how you'd expect it to react in order to have fun on the wheel. And that just doesn't happen. On a pad, it's okay. You can be a bit more forgiving because you're just having a bit more fun. It's a bit more casual. And as I said, the handling aspect of this game probably works better for a pad. But yeah, I mean, I think that probably sums up my my feelings of it on a wheel, really. And I didn't hate it, I have to say. And I actually found that on a pad, before I set my sensitivity very high, I actually dislike this game more, the handling of this game more then than I do now. So I don't hate it on a wheel. The open wheel car isn't great. I wouldn't drive this Formula 1 car on a wheel on this game. But if you want to drive Formula 1 cars, get the official Formula 1 game. It handles a lot better than this on a Formula 1 car. But yeah, I didn't hate it, particularly on muscle cars. It was okay. It wasn't bad, but I think, as an arcade game, you don't want to be getting a wheel out that's quite realistic. That's supposed to simulate you actually turning the wheel and having pedals. You don't want to be playing a game that isn't very good in terms of simulation. And it's just too arcadey, really. You see me having another moment there. It's just immediately snapping on us, and we just weren't able to catch it in time. Yeah, I guess at this point I'm just going to be going over myself. So I'll just jump into some commentary. You see the guys ahead just for some reason going very, very slowly. I don't know if it's a flashback that caused that or something. But we get squeezed to the wall. For some reason the AI are so slow over these bumps. They just seem to back out of it every time they land, which just enables us to just fly past them. See this guy here, going so slow up the hill. So we're going to fly up inside. Actually end up smashing into it. Didn't really mean to do that, but we'll roll with it anyway. And from this point onwards then, I think, right, we're now got a bit of practice on the wheel, and we just chuck it in and everywhere, and we're just really pushing it hard and just trying to, you see even there, they're pushing it hard, just ended up having to slow down so much because of the understeer. But we are pushing it very hard, and we are just trying to get as much as we can out of the wheel and just seeing what we can do. You can see us, we're not going to brake till we land there, going to chuck it in, which we managed to make that stick nicely with the understeer of this game, and we go flat through there just about, which again is the part I'm surprised there's not more downforce in this car. I should say as well, the interesting part, of course, is that Fernando Alonso was a bit of a consultant on this game. And he, of course, played on the wheel quite a bit. So it's a bit surprising. You see me nailing the last couple of corners there, just really getting the hang of it. And there we go then. I think there's not a lot more to say. I think I've said pretty much everything I need to say, in all honesty, in this video. To conclude, this game isn't great on a pad or on a wheel. It's a pad game. If you got it, it's not bad on a pad. Play it on a pad. Wheel just isn't worth it. If you want to play a game on a wheel, play something like Assetto Corsa, which is incredible on a wheel. This game for me is a miss on a wheel. Play it on a pad if you got it. As I said, do not forget to subscribe if you're new, and I thank you for watching. Bye bye.